pawn ending. That is going to be absolutely winning for black. What to do? He cannot even go on the counter offensive with his own rook, get it active. He's going to maybe try rook f5 and try there, but the c-pawn will be falling.
Yeah, and with the fall of the c-pawn comes the end of the game. Black will give a check, take the pawn, and yeah, white's just too slow. Two connected pass pawns, the b and c pawns. Fantastic endgame technique. Ghosh has done everything right since an opening blunder from Nepomniachtchi, who, wow, he stops the clock. That means he's exiting the competition in round 2, Nepomniachtchi. He brings his kings to the center. He signs the score sheet. He just wants to get out of that playing hall. It's just been a tough day for him. Losing with white, that happens once in a blue moon. We see the handshake. Congratulates his opponent.
The game of second round of FIDE World Cup between Nepomniachtchi and Diptayan Ghosh was a perfect game from the Indian Grandmaster. So let's have a look. It was e4, e5, Ruy Lopez, and we have the main line: castling, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop back, and castling. And Nepomniachtchi goes for a4. Diptayan pushes a pawn, and now d4 by Nepomniachtchi. d6, takes, takes. I mean, you can go to the end game, and that will be equalish position. White wants to push, so knight d2, and now a5. Take, takes, and queen e2. Position is still fine. Bishop to c5, knight f3, and now queen to e7. Pawn h3. And here it was a small mistake by Nepomniachtchi. You can sense that black's piece is a little too active. So bishop e3 was required. And you will see why. After h3, bishop a6. Now, if Nepomniachtchi plays bishop c4, there is bishop into f2. If you take with the queen, you lose the pawn and you're down a pawn. And if you take with the king, you have queen c5 and collect back the piece. Collect back the piece. So pawn up. So bishop c4 is not possible here. It's possible, it's the best move, but he will still be down a pawn. So this is the reason why bishop had to come to e3 before h3. So Nepo gets into a terrible position right out of the opening. Queen goes back. Rook, of course, comes to d8 and knight d2. Now there are two nice choices for Diptayan. He goes for the immediate cashing of chips. He is attacking b2. If the queen gets out of there, there is a bishop takes and rook takes. You win the pawn. The other option, the long-term option, was rook d6. Point being, after queen gets out, you move the knight out of the way, and you're threatening all sorts of things. Rook f6 is a threat. So knight c4 is the best option, but rook f6 comes anyway. f2 is also under pressure. So this is heavier pressure. Diptayan, however, goes for the immediate cashing of chips with bishop d4. Queen gets out of there because otherwise a c5, c4, c5, queen d6, everything was coming. Just doubling of the rooks. It was getting tough. So he goes for queen f3. Now bishop takes b2, takes and takes. Comfortable advantage out of the opening. Queen e3. He brings the rook back. You can see why this would be a mistake. This would be great, but you may get hit with a interference with either of the bishops. It won't work right now, but there is also queen a7 attacking this and pieces coming in. So he goes for rook d8, pawn f4, Nepomniachtchi going for some activity, opening up his bishops. Diptayan just takes, and plays c5. c4 is going to win, so bishop comes out of there. Sadly, the bishop had to allow the exchange. Takes, and the queen gets out of there. Queen g4, threatening a mate. Queen comes to g6. You can defend your pawn, but not for long. c4 is going to come, c3, bishop b7. So takes, and it's a pawn up endgame. Rook and bishop endgame for Diptayan. Pawn d6, rook comes down, bishop comes in, bishop b7. You can do this with tempo and get the king also, so it's all good. Bishop c6, attacking the pawn, rook goes back, f6, king comes in, g5 was coming, g5, f5, f4 was coming, so h4. And now c4, Diptayan just improving the position before figuring out how to go for the win. Rook comes in, rook e8, bishop moves, and now c3. So position is now maximized. I mean, you can activate the rook also. So this is now maximized. The rooks are attacking the pawn, bishop is stuck here, king is also as active as it can be. The pawns are ready for that break. And now, after rook d4 comes the winning attempt, which is g5. The bishop can no longer defend the pawn. It takes, and it is pawn up again. Rook d5, bishop goes back. The bishop is almost trapped as well here. Because if you go back to f4, there is g5. The bishop is almost out of square. If you go back to c1, there is rook coming in. So bishop e3, and now just rook e5. Can't defend it. Rook e1. What would happen if the rook comes in defense? This would be a very permanent pin. I mean, you will just take, and it's just great. So rook f1 was played, but the king just steps out of there. And now g4, giving up the piece. After takes, Nepomniachtchi also takes the bishop. So if you take the rook, he takes the rook. Rook check, king moves, and still takes. But this rook endgame is also winning, even though it's just one pawn down, and white king seems active. It's still completely winning because Diptayan just cuts off the white king, and rook d2 is coming. Because the pawns are already where they are, they are going to win pretty fast without the king being required. So with this win, Nepomniachtchi goes. I mean, with this loss, Nepomniachtchi goes out of the World Cup right in the second round of the World Cup.